Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's great to see so many of you here this early hour for the 8th Annual CSAA International Central Stations Excellence Awards presentation. We'd like to begin this morning with a presentation on the findings of a study conducted by the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, on property crime and why actual perpetrators burglarize specific properties. This study was conducted with funding from ARIF. Founded in 1977, ARIF serves as the research arm of the electronic security industry. Through education, ARIF provides funding for publications, videos, and course development benefiting consumers, public safety, and the industry. A brochure on ARIF can be found on your tables this morning. We thank our friends at ESA for allowing us to present these interesting findings to you today. This study we're going to hear about this morning was compiled by Dr. Blevins, an associate professor in the Department of Criminal Justice at Eastern Kentucky, and Dr. Joseph B. Kuhns. Dr. Kuhns is with us this morning and will be presenting their findings. He is an associate professor in the Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Before joining the faculty at UNC Charlotte, Dr. Kuhns served as a senior policy advisor in the Office of Community-Oriented Policy and Services within the U.S. Department of Justice. I wonder what that acronym reads like. He earned his doctorate in criminology from the University at Albany. I'm sure you'll find the results of this research conducted with incarcerated burglars fascinating. Joe, I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Morning. Morning, everybody. As any good teacher or scholar does, I will not restrict myself to the podium. I tend to wander around. My pleasure to be here. I want to thank CSAA and ARIF particularly for funding this project. I know it's kind of an odd thing to talk about at a breakfast, but you know, going back, I first started thinking about the importance of talking to offenders back when I was a graduate student down at South Florida. And I talked to one of my potential thesis advisors at that time, and I was 25 years old, and I had never really gotten my hands dirty. I'd never talked to an offender, and I thought that was important. I wanted to do that. So she said, I got an opportunity for you. I said, what is it? She said, I want to go send you down to the jail, and you're going to talk to prostitutes and interview prostitutes. How many have talked to prostitutes? You know, as I tell my students, I don't think you've lived life fully until you've talked to a group of prostitutes. So I talked to the prostitutes, and it helped me recognize a couple things. Number one, you learn a tremendous amount by talking to offenders. You talk to the people that are involved, and that's what we did in this particular study. In this study, I didn't talk to prostitutes this time. I talked to a group of burglars, and they happened to be a group of burglars that were incarcerated, but they were a group of burglars nonetheless. And these were the questions that we were interested in addressing. I was interested in understanding from the burglar's perspective, from the offender's perspective, what motivates you to engage in burglary? What factors are you thinking about as you're engaging in burglary? What kinds of things go through your mind? What sorts of deterrent measures are in place that might cause you to rethink whether or not you want to enter into a home or a business? What techniques do you use? And then in this particular study, and because there was not much known about this particular group, we were interested in studying gender differences. And we ended up talking and surveying male and female burglars across 3 states. So a little bit just about the process that we used, and I'll get to some of the results and walk you through some of the things that we learned. First of all, these were random samples of incarcerated burglars across 3 states. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. We had access to the North Carolina Department of Corrections. We had my colleague, Kristen Blevins, was in Kentucky, and so we were able to access the Kentucky prison system. And then we had a third colleague on the project, Zach, who was in Ohio. And so we had 3 states. We went into prisons across those various states. We identified lists of incarcerated burglars across those states and across those various prison systems, and we delivered and disseminated self-administered surveys. So I didn't get an opportunity to actually sit down and talk to burglars one-on-one. We provide them with an instrument, they filled it out. As you might suspect, folks in prison have lots of time on their hands. So we ended up getting a lot of responses. We got a lot of information. We have 422 completed surveys and comprised of males and females both. So let me walk you through sort of some of the things that we found. First, we wanted to confirm, were we definitely talking to burglars and were we talking to people that have been involved in crime for a long time? And that answer, fortunately, was yes. We had a wide range. But on average, the folks that we talked to had been arrested up to an average of 13 times, anywhere ranging from 1 to 100. So these were seasoned offenders. With respect to burglary specifically, the average number of arrests was 3. So these were folks that had been engaged in burglary for long periods of time, some starting way back when they were 6, 7, 8 years old, some starting later in life. But nevertheless, we had a group of fairly persistent offenders in this particular study. And about half of the folks that we talked to mostly spent their time in homes, so broke into homes. And about a third broke into businesses, and smaller proportions generally broke into churches or other kinds of schools, for example. But this group, this particular set of information helps us and helps you understand these were burglars, for sure. These were not people that were incarcerated on other kinds of crimes. These were folks that were persistent burglary offenders. So that's good news for us. Now, motivated. What motivates them? Well, these folks had a primary motivation, and I think this goes back when I talked to those prostitutes down in Tampa. Their primary motivation was drug use. Just as a piece of side information, there's not too many people out there that choose to go into a life of prostitution. They get into it for other reasons. Some are compelled through trafficking. Some are compelled through substance use. This is a similar group. This was a group that was highly motivated by drug use. They had a wide range of experiences in drug use. They had used drugs and alcohol to great extent, wide ranges of different kinds of substances. And, you know, this last bullet point up here I think is particularly important and something that this group wants to think about and that citizens need to think about, police officers need to think about. Almost 3/4 said that they were using drugs when they were breaking into your homes or businesses. And that's a little concerning. Now, I want to put this into some context. Many of these offenders have zero interest in ever interacting with a homeowner or a business owner. They want to avoid that. Their goal is to get into your home or your business, take your money or your property or your drugs, and get away quickly. And you'll see that as I go through some of the other material here. Nevertheless, if they're in your home, a lot of them are not in a sober condition. That's something we really want to think about from a public safety perspective. Churches and schools, not that interesting. Most of them were interested in homes and businesses. And in fact, we had a clear division here across gender lines. Women would break into the homes during the daytime. Men tended to break into businesses at night. So we had two separate groups of offenders. And as a typical officer responding to a home burglary that occurred in the daytime, my guess is many officers aren't thinking about the potential offender as a female. But it turns out we've got a group of female offenders out there. They are in your homes, and they're in your homes during the daytime when they know people are not around. So that's something that I think we learned in this study that's important for us to think about as we go forward. They're not hardworking people necessarily. They spend a lot of time in crime, and they spend a lot of time engaging in it, but they don't spend a lot of time necessarily planning it. We've got a small group that spends some time planning, but most are not spending a lot of time planning and thinking carefully and deliberating about what they're going to do. Now, about 1/3 of the offenders said they actually went to the spot, the home or the business, and took a look and surveyed and cased the joint, if you will, before they went in. So that means 2/3 didn't take the time to even visit the spot, which tells you that many burglaries are spur-of-the-moment kinds of offenses. People are out, they're running around, they're doing something, they see an opportunity, and they react and go. Okay, so they're not deliberate thinkers, this group. Now, there is a smaller group that does spend a lot more time thinking and deliberating and planning, but that's not your typical burglar. But what they do think about, and what's important, I think, for this audience to think carefully about, is they think about what will get them caught. They think about what kinds of deterrent measures might be in place. And they consider, when you sort of prioritize this, more than half consider things like dogs, cars in the driveway, whether or not there were alarm systems in place, whether or not there's a video surveillance camera in place, and whether or not there are people inside. So those are, when I think about primary deterrent measures, those are the things that rise to the top. Now, the ones on the bottom, most of the offenders still thought about these things, but they just didn't think about them as often or in substantial proportions. So are there officers nearby, traffic, how close are we how close are we to another home? Are there hiding places, steel bars? All of these are potential deterrent measures. All of these are potential home and business target hardening devices that I think about. But the ones on the lower half are not necessarily the ones that are thought of most often. The ones in the upper half people are thinking about more often. Now the question becomes, what do they think about specifically with respect to alarms? And alarms, and this was a central question for this research, are alarms effective deterrents? When this audience, I think, hopes that answers yes. The question I was interested in asking was from the burglar's perspective. You're a potential burglar. Are you thinking about an alarm before you go into a home or a business? That's an important question for you. It's an important question for public safety and public security folks. And turns out the answer is yes. 6 out of 10, I think, said they would, if there's an alarm there, they're going to go somewhere else. Now, that tells you a very important piece of information. It tells you that alarms do deter offenders from entering homes and businesses. And that's from the offender's perspective. That's from their own experiences. And this is a group of offenders that are persistently involved in burglary. So that's an important finding. I think it's self-evident. Many in the law enforcement industry know this, but I think it's helpful to have that perspective delivered from the folks that are actually involved. Many would try to determine if an alarm was present before they go in. So they're looking for the devices, they're looking for cameras, they're looking for indicators that there's an alarm, they're looking for alarm signs. And if they started a burglary and then determined that there was an alarm there, a lot of them would disengage and leave. They did not want to get caught, they did not want to have police or private security show up. There's a small proportion, I think it's 1 in 10, that would try to circumvent the alarm, either disable it or work as it's going off and get out quickly, or by some other means persist and continue with the burglary despite the fact that the alarm was there. But that was about 1 in 10. They are not interested in attention. They are trying to avoid confrontation. They don't want police or security to show up. They prefer security to show up over police, and they'll try to understand who's going to come before they go. So we've got some folks out there that are thinking about the response process. What's going to happen if the alarm triggers? Who's going to show up? How long will it take? That's, again, I don't think that's the majority of the burglars out there. That's a small minority of the burglars out there that are thinking about what the response will be and how quickly and who's going to come and how efficiently they're going to get there. But they are thinking about that as they're potentially considering going into a home or a business. Not a surprising finding, I think, to many in the crime prevention business. Many burglaries occur because people leave their doors and windows open. They provide access. They make it easy to get in and out. These are not crafty folks. Their tools are limited to screwdrivers, crowbars, and hammers. So if they can't find an open window or door, they will pry in with those kinds of things. But most burglaries occur because doors and windows are left ajar. And these are opportunistic offenders. They see an opportunity, they go in, and they get what they need and get out. So that tells you something about, it's a simple message that we've got to continue to permeate throughout the community. Protect your own home. Take steps to protect your own home. Most burglars didn't spend a lot of time there. They're in and out quickly. They're looking for what they need and they want to get out. And again, that is consistent with the idea that they're not interested in confrontation. They don't want to enter a home when there's somebody there, or in fact, when there's a dog there. They want to enter a home when nobody's around, enter a business when nobody's around, get in, get out. Let's see. What do they like to take? Well, not surprisingly, they like money, jewelry, cash, some, and a fairly large proportion of females particularly, and males for that matter, were focused on stealing drugs. Those could be illegal drugs from drug sellers and drug dealers. Those could be prescription medications that are in your cabinets. So their motivation consistent with what they're seeking. Those that stole cash, many of them are using that cash to support their drug habits. The two primary motivators, the two primary reasons why people burglarize are drugs and money. And of the money group, many of them are going to use that money to buy drugs. So when you put it all together, drugs are a primary motivator. We did ask them a little bit about how they got rid of things. We've got some interesting, I don't know if this is the case in all cities. In Charlotte, when you go to a pawn shop to try to pawn an item, they actually fingerprint you now, and they take identification at that time. That's going to change the nature of how burglars get rid of stolen items. But at this point, they're still selling it to strangers, pawn shops, and things like that. Didn't get a lot of indications about the Craigslist distribution process, and I think this is coming. You know, I always like to return back to the prostitutes. Prostitutes are near and dear to my heart since I did that thesis down in Tampa in a good way. Prostitution has changed considerably. In many cities, street prostitution is kind of eroding and drying up in favor of a Craigslist prostitution model, where they advertise online, they give some contact information, they make the connection, they agree to meet somewhere. I foresee this down the road. If we start to continue to put pressure on pawn shops and other ways of distributing stolen goods, I think we're going to get into a redistribution model. It's something for law enforcement folks to think about, and something for us to kind of carefully consider as we move forward and trying to figure out how to manage burglaries. Incidentally, in Charlotte, I'm not sure how your communities are. In Charlotte, we have surveyed citizens and asked the citizens to prioritize their crime problems and tell us what their most prominent concern is, and it is burglary. Burglary is their top concern in Charlotte, if you ask citizens. So it's something we're continuing to wrestle with. And then one last thing. They typically, a group likes to work alone. An equal-sized group always wants to work with somebody else, and there's a group in there that's mixed. But this is also a gender difference. By gender, females tend to burglarize with spouses or significant others, and it's likely that those are both involved in drug use. Males tend to burglarize with others, friends, colleagues, other offenders. So we've got a little bit of a difference in terms of gender. Now, how this is important, if you think about it, a sole burglar coming into your home presents maybe a little bit less of a risk. If you've got multiple people entering your home, there's a greater risk. So it's something we want to think about as we try to help citizens particularly understand how they can protect themselves from becoming victims of burglary. So overall, let's kind of put this together. Most offenders report committing burglaries directly or indirectly to get money for drugs and cash or drugs themselves. Most did not plan in advance. They didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it. Most burglaries are spur-of-the-moment kinds of offenses, but they do think about alarms. They do think about whether or not alarms are present. If there are alarms present, they will seek an alternative venue. And overall, the evidence suggests that alarms are pretty effective deterrents for many burglars, according to the burglars themselves. Now, I had a follow-up interview recently with a magazine in England based on the study. They called me. They were interested in asking some questions. One of the questions they asked was, what would you recommend to homeowners and business owners with respect to protecting themselves, right? And so my first recommendation was just get one of these. But they were dissatisfied with that answer, so I gave them some more. And I said it's fairly simple. Lock your doors and windows Get an alarm system if you can afford it. If you can't afford the alarm system, at least have a sign out there that says you have an alarm system. They don't know the difference. A dog helps, but what really helps is having people think that you're there when you're not. And that means rotating lights coming on and off, stereos and televisions playing, and having people make sure that your house looks like it's occupied at all times. So it's a fairly straightforward set of conclusions. And again, nothing new to law enforcement. Law enforcement folks know this. What I think we need to continually remind ourselves, though, is that many of us understand this, but many of the victims don't. And the victims continually get re-victimized, so we need to help them understand what they need to change on that initial victimization. So in closing, I just want to thank, real quick, if you are interested in the broader study, it is available at ARIF's website. They supported the research, and we're grateful for their support. We think there'll be at least 1 or 2 follow-up studies to this. But if you're interested in looking at the whole thing, and it's fairly extensive, there's a lot more to it than what I presented here, I encourage you to go get the study. I thank you for your time.
We have a couple of minutes if anybody has any questions of Dr. Kuhns. Okay, right down here in front.
Do you suppose that there are a group of burglars that well prepared and don't get busted?
Yes. The question is there a group out there that are well prepared, that don't get caught, that are not in prison, not incarcerated, and are they different is the follow-up question to that. And I think there is. And I think I would like to pursue that study and try to find that group of offenders who have been successful and have not been caught and have successfully tripped up alarm systems and have gotten in and out of more difficult, more hardened targets. And I'd like to talk to that group. Now, the challenge is accessing that group. You know, how am I going to find them? Now, I got a chance at this, I think, in Charlotte. I served as a chair of a thesis on burglary with a burglary detective. So I've got a burglary detective in Charlotte that's been working as a detective for 20 years. I think he can help me find some of these folks, and I want to do that. I think it's a great study. It's a great group that we want to pay attention to, and frankly, this audience can learn from. That's the group. You don't want to necessarily learn from the people that have been caught multiple times. You want to learn from the people that we've never found, because they're good at what they're doing, and they figured out how to circumvent all of the target hardening mechanisms. So it's a great question. It's something I want to pursue.
Good. Thanks very much, Dr. Kuhns. Appreciate your presentation this morning. And all right, one more question.
Did you have any stats on how often the burglars were armed?
Where are you? Over here. Interesting question. The answer is no. I was almost fearful, but I did have a stat that relates to that. And it's sort of, I guess, on the heels of the presentation yesterday from the chief from Newtown. After Newtown occurred, one of the questions that arose was, are people concerned about burglars breaking into their homes to steal guns? Right? My suspicion, having not asked the question, is that most of these people were not armed when they went in with anything other than armed. By armed, I mean they weren't carrying a firearm. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is they're drug users, and so they pawned their firearm a long time ago to continue their drug use, so they can't afford that. And the second is, remember, the burglar is not somebody that wants to shoot someone. They want to get in and get out cleanly. Now, the follow-up piece of information that relates to Newtown, which I found interesting, we did ask them, what were you looking for? You saw some of that information up here. What were you trying to steal? Of 422 burglars, 1 said that they were looking to steal guns. 1 of 422. So the typical burglar out there is not trying to break into your home to steal your guns, which is an important thing for us to think about, and not that we need to be less secure about firearms, but that's not what they're after. They're after your money, your valuables, things that they can sell quickly, and if you've got prescription drugs or you've got illegal drugs, they're certainly going to be after that.
Good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Now let's move on to the awards portion of our programming. We're also proud of the nominees this year and honored to be able to reward them through the CSAA International Excellence Award Program for the many significant contributions they've made to the Central Station monitoring industry. CSAA would like to thank our judges who devote a large amount of their time and expertise in evaluating each of the nominees. We are thankful for their guidance and participation. We'd also like to thank our steadfast partner for the last 8 years, SDM Magazine, for their help in all aspects of the CSAA Excellence Award Program. Mark McCourt, the publisher, Laura Stepanek, the editor, Heather Colts-Young, senior editor, and Sabrina Gasula, associate editor. And finally, thank you to the companies that have taken the time to share with us those individuals who are truly raising the bar of excellence in the Central Station monitoring industry. At this time, let me turn the microphone over to Laura for the presentation of the awards. Laura?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's so much fun to be here and give these awards. And when I talked with Bob and found out that it's the 8th annual, I was really surprised. We've been involved for all 8 years, but I can't believe how much time has gone by since that first award was presented. And I think there are some, I can't see too well with the lights now, but I think there are some prior winners of the CSAA Excellence Awards here this morning. And at this time, if you have won an award in the past, whether it's for Operator of the Year, Support Person, Manager, or Central Station, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. Well done. So these awards, again, as I said, it's such a fun award to give because it recognizes excellence in performance among Central Station personnel and Central Stations overall. And it really does show all of the good work that's being done in responding to alarms and dealing with customers about their alarms, and some fantastic effort that's being made, and events that are happening at this level. So we're very proud to be a sponsor. And SDM's role, just briefly, SDM's role in the Excellence Awards is to work with soliciting judges every year. We've had a lot of continuity with the judging panel, but some new ones, some drop off and some new ones are added. They do remain anonymous, but they put in so much time in helping discuss and give ideas for the award application, what makes sense, what questions are good ones and are going to help them make a judgment call versus what questions are not that valuable and should be dropped. So they work with us on the application. They put a lot of time into reading the awards and filling out judging sheets that help them make fair and balanced decisions, and then, of course, the conference calls where the winners are determined. And this year, I think we have 6 judges, or maybe there's 7, but SDM is not a judge. We're just involved in coordinating the effort, and then we publish a story about the winners in our August issue, so you can look for that. But this year, there was a comment from one of the judges that I thought was very apropos, and he said, that it was a very difficult decision because there are so many good nominees, and it's like trying to pick the very best from among the very best. There really is so much excellence in this at this level that it's very hard to pick. So the pamphlets on the tables show all of the nominees in all 4 categories. There is Support Person of the Year, Operator of the Year, Manager of the Year, and then Central Station of the Year. And so you can see everyone who's been nominated by their companies in this pamphlet. And this morning, I'm going to tell you a little bit about, in each of the categories, the top 3 nominees, and then announce the winner. And just one thing that I need to mention is that we've been asked not to do photos during this part of the presentation, but that all winners should stay afterwards for photos. That's a must. So if you're a winner, you must stay for a photo. And so can run these slides and tell you about our first first category, which is Central Station Support Person of the Year. And so our first finalist is, do I have that right? Angie Montgomery from ADS Security. And Angie has worked with ADS Security for the past 20 years. She's currently the data entry supervisor in charge of entering and reviewing data, testing new procedures, managing 2 data entry operators, and working with software vendors on data conversions. She has been described by her coworkers as a very positive and determined person. If there's a problem, she will work to resolve it until she's convinced she has found the best solution. The second nominee is Mark Simpson from RFI Security. Simpson started as a part-time employee of RFI 26 years ago. He is currently manager of Central Station Tech Services in charge of mass automation and alarm receiver support and all other Central Station technical support issues. Simpson would read the user guides and manuals during his spare time and has become a vital source of information, often educating the company, dealers, and other departments about how things work. With 3 promotions under his belt, he has since turned that job into a full-time career and offers career pathing meetings to his coworkers to help them achieve their goals. And our third nominee is Dave Carter from Vector Security. Carter has been with Vector Security for 15 years and has been promoted 3 times. He's currently the East Central Station Tech Support Leader in charge of installation and maintenance, providing technical training to staff, overseeing the equipment and customer support teams, and providing branch and field tech support to both residential and commercial customer panels. Carter's dedication can be seen through his work ethic. He responded to a 6 a.m. call on a holiday weekend and was in the car before his supervisor could even finish explaining the problem. Carter not only fixes the issues that arise, but creates a solution so the problem, if not resolved, is easier to fix the next time around. And now the winner from among these 3 nominees in the Central Station Support Person of the Year is Angie Montgomery. One more fact about Angie, it was told on her application that her calming presence, her effective communication skills, and her willingness to help others makes her an inspiration to the ADS team. And the next category is Central Station Operator of the Year. Again, 3 nominees. And the first one is Nick Hernandez, RFI Security. Hernandez, a former 9/11 dispatch operator, has been with RFI for 2 years with perfect attendance. In addition to being a senior dispatcher, he is in charge of training new hires. He has rewritten, created, and implemented a training program after identifying the need to help reduce attrition among new hires. Hernandez is described as an honest and ethical employee who promotes teamwork and gives exceptional customer service. And the second nominee is Crystal McLemore. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Crystal, with CPI Security. She's been with CPI for 4 years and never missed a day of work. She's placed as a priority in alarm queues and has offered all inbound calls from customers and responding agencies. She is also in charge of training the new employees. She regularly receives praise from customers and other teammates for making a difference and going beyond the call of duty. McLemore is seen as the go-to operator because of her knowledge and willingness to assist in all operations. And the third nominee in this category of operator is Joe Ferrari, ADS Security. Ferrari has been an operator with ADS for 12 years and a shift supervisor for 3. He is a solution-minded person who works hard to ensure proper staffing and weather preparedness. He is a source of inspiration to his peers through his work ethic and his daily email, including a motivational quote. In the past year alone, he has come in more than 20 times to work during a non-scheduled period. Ferrari is admired for his ability to handle any situation with calm, providing a reassuring example for both coworkers and customers. And the winner of CSAA Excellence Operator of the Year is Crystal McLemore. Congratulations, Crystal. You're not Crystal.
She had to work, so Macklemore.
Macklemore, thank you. Congratulations to Crystal. Let her know. And the next category is Central Station Manager of the Year. And again, our three nominees. The first one is Ted Stoller, Vector Security East. In the 12 years he's been with Vector Security's East Central Station, he's been Vector Security's East Central Station Manager and Assistant Vice President. Stoller has used his 35 years of security experience to improve the company's work culture, call response time, training procedures, and follow-up, employee performance reporting, after-hours technical support, and more. A standout in his approach is the importance he's placed on not only hiring the right people and training them well, but in overseeing their continued development. He implemented changes in the structure and management of the company's training program to reflect this, always training and seeking talent beyond the level of current responsibility. And the second nominee is Jacqueline Grimm, Diebold Security. As Vice President of Monitoring Operations, Jacqueline recently lobbied for strategic investments in the Central Station, such as the addition of managed access control solutions, network IP services, enhancements to the station's call switchboard, and development of an online customer portal. She also helped implement an automated call escalation tracking and response system in 2009 and helped establish and last year refine the monitoring station's emergency protocol. Earlier in her career, Jackie was instrumental in helping Diebold's Monitoring Center achieve its initial CSAA 5-Diamond certification in 2003. Out of all our nominees today, Jacqueline holds the longest tenure record after 31 years with Diebold. And the third nominee is Jeremy Weibel, Alarm Central. During Weibel's 10 years as a general manager, he has helped accomplish several improvements to the Central Station, which included upgrading the automation system, adding video monitoring, moving from POTS lines to a redundant fiber network, adding a mobile app for dealers, adding various IP receivers, and more. He also wrote a training procedure manual, establishing a scheduling concept that allows operators to have a set work schedule. During a recent snowstorm, he offered rides to operators that would otherwise be unable to get to work. Weibel's can-do attitude and kill them with kindness motto has not only helped improve morale, but customer satisfaction as well. And the winner of Central Station Manager of the Year is Ted Stoller, Vector Security East. Ted was determined to be an example. He was tested in every way during Hurricane Sandy. He dove into the task as an unwavering source of leadership, support, and motivation to the Central Station staff. Congratulations, Ted. Congratulations, Ted. Quite an accomplishment. And now on to the nominees for Central Station of the Year. And if you look in your pamphlet on the table, you'll see that there were actually 13 companies that were nominated for this award. And so the top three, I'll tell you a little bit about each one. The first one is Walgreens, Deerfield, Illinois based. For Walgreens, a national retailer with more than 8,000 stores, building a proprietary monitoring station required a significant investment and resulted in a considerable shift in its business model. But it was also a profitable move that made the Fortune 50 company stand out and want to be emulated by companies such as Best Buy, Target, Aeon, and others. The company has built a remarkable monitoring station that is UL listed and a CSAA 5-Diamond member as of 2012. Despite the fact that the monitoring station protects the company's own stakeholders and employees, as well as store customers, the technology and processes that it employs to do so are much like a traditional alarm company's, and quite sophisticated too. Walgreens developed a false alarm reduction program that includes video verification enabled by Mass Video and Mastermind integration with its video systems, cross-point motion sensors, and others. In addition, the company leverages data acquired through its monitoring systems to, for example, notify a manager of an overnight power outage that could compromise the quality of temperature-sensitive pharmaceuticals and food items. Our second nominee is Vector Security West, Pittsburgh. Vector's West Central Station services all of the company's national account customers as well as branch-level commercial customers. The complexity of its device backup, hiring, training, compliance, performance reporting, false alarm prevention, and retention procedures are vital to allowing the West Central Station to operate in harmony with the company's other 3 stations. During the 2012 facility move of the West Central Station, Vector's intricate redundancy system allowed it to offer uninterrupted service without using any of the other Central Station staff, providing the ultimate test for its well-thought-out disaster plan during 5 days. When the plan was again tested during Hurricane Sandy, it was the company's tireless staff that proved to be heroes, working overtime and training non-Central Station staff to respond to low-priority events so it could respond to all of its customers in a timely manner. The Central Station is a profitable business, but Vector is equally committed to the betterment of the alarm industry through its involvement in several CSAA committees, UL standards committees, as well as its pioneering efforts with the ASAP to PSAP program. And the third nominee is CPI Security Systems. Since it first applied for the Excellence Awards in 2006, CPI has been hard at work to turn an already exemplary Central Station into an exceptional one by learning from itself and from past winners. The company currently boasts a 0.38 dispatch rate, which has been steadily declining due to its strong relationships with responding authorities and ordinance committees, as well as a proactive focus on customer training and follow-up, commitment to enhanced verification, and more recently, the use of video verification. The Central Station has 5 mirrored redundant Mastermind servers and dual signal processors in place. CPI's communications with its customers are constant and valuable, promoting the use of their security systems, addressing actual and false alarms, or just showing appreciation. Industry involvement is highly prized, and members of CPI's Central Station management team are also leaders in organizations such as the North Carolina Alarm Association, the IQ Certification Board, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Foundation, and are involved with organizations such as UL, SEAC, CSAA, ESA, SEA, and NFPA. So now you know about the 3 nominees, and let's find out who the winner is. And the Central Station of the Year is CPI. Awesome. Well, that concludes the presentation of the winners. Again, just a reminder for all of the winners to please stay around after the breakfast for photos. And now back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Laura, and congratulations to all of this year's winners. The competition for these awards is very stiff, and to be named a winner in your category shows that you have reached the highest level of professionalism. And Laura, we want to thank you and your wonderful 8 years of support from SDM. ESX has the finest educational opportunities in the industry, so I hope that all will take advantage of some of the excellent sessions offered this week. The show floor opens today at 1 p.m. Be sure to stop by CSA's booth 901. Again, congratulations to all of our winners, and we'll see you at lunch today or on the show floor. Thanks very much.